Hey guys, this is Fazil Ahmed and welcome to the second video of C++ tutorials. In the previous one, we saw how to set up code blocks and start running everything so that we can start programming in C++, and we finally ended up with this bunch of code, a small piece of code actually. So in this video, I'm going to be taking you through this piece of code line by line, word by word. So focus more here, because if you can understand the things I say in this video, you will be able to catch up the upcoming videos really quickly. So let's get started. So the first line says hash include something like angle brackets, and within that you have something called IO stream. So this is called a header file commonly, but the actual technical term is preprocessor directive. So what this actually is, as the sentence reads, you're going to include something called IO stream. So this IO stream is nothing but a C++ file which contains a bunch of functions and classes inside it. What is a function? What is a class? We'll come to that later, but for now all you need to know is that this line contains a C++ file which contains some C++ stuff in it, which is required for this program here to run smoothly. And that's it. So second line is using namespace std. Okay, for those of you from non-computer science background, this std does not mean sexually transmitted disease. It means standard library. So yeah, so what is this using namespace? So these are called keywords, which means these are accepted as it is, because that's how the person who created this programming language wanted it to be, so we take it as it is. So what does this is similar to this preprocessor directive, except for the fact that this includes a whole library called the standard library, which contains a lot of C++ files, which in turn contains a lot of functions and classes, just like the header file. So on the whole, both of these lines actually contains a bunch of files, a bunch of stuff which is required for this program here, this piece of code here to run properly. Actually, if you look at it, some statements have a semicolon, some lines have semicolon, some lines are ending with semicolon, and some are not. So in C++, every statement, if you call something as a statement, it ends with a semicolon. If it does not, it's not called as a statement. It can be a function, just like you're here, or it can be a header file, or it can be a class, which we will be discussing in the future. And more closely, if you look, the second line is actually not this. This is the second line. Second line is blank. As I told you, every statement, every sentence ends with a semicolon. It doesn't matter whether you have a space or not before or after that. It's all gonna be the same. Even if I remove this line over here, or if I make a little bit more indentation over here, you know what? This program it's gonna run the same way as it ran before. Let's see here. If I click build and run, the output is the same. My first C++ program. So it doesn't matter, the program, the computer doesn't care how much tabs you leave here or how much space you have or lack of it. It's not gonna give any damn about it. There you go. And that's a good thing, because so these lines and spacers and indentation, it all depends on the programmer. If you have these things, if you follow this set of there is a set of rules to follow when you're coding, which will, if it is going to be read by some other person, you have to leave lines, spaces between similar bunches of code, and few indentation after these curly braces. So all these rules are made. I mean, you basically decorate your piece of code so that it looks neat and it's easy for the third person to read and understand. That's about it. There is no technical reason for that. Fine. So after these two, let's come to this one, int main and open and close parenthesis. So in C++, if you see anything with an open and close parenthesis with a name accompanying it, it means that it is a function. And what is a function? Okay. Function by definition is something like this. It has an input, and it does something with the input, and it gives an output. So by definition, this is function. For example, if I have the input as number 2, and the function is that the function of this whole thing, the function of this function is that it multiplies the input by 2, and obviously the output is gonna be 4. So If I change the input here to 5, the output is, guess what, 10. So that's function in a nutshell. It's got an input, it's got something to do with the input, and it has an output. As simple as that. So here we have this function, and it's called the main function. And the main function, it has a name called main, and it also has a body, which is denoted by this opening of this curly braces and closing of this curly braces. So everything in between that is called the body of the function. Cool. And you know what, I told you, right, a function has to return something, and it also has to have some input. In programming, this is not exactly the case, because in programming a function may or may not have an input. Even if you don't have an input in programming languages, or in generally in programming, it's fine, but a function always returns some output or the other. For example, in this case, this is the main function, and this does not have any input. If it had any input, it's got to be something over here, like something here, but we don't have any input here, so we just leave it blank. It's just an open and close parenthesis. So that parenthesis is meant for inputting some values to the function. And finally, every function's body ends with a return statement over here. So this is nothing but the output of the function. So this is mandatory for every function. And we have something here, a return 0. So we'll come to that 0 a little bit later. First of all, let's go here. We didn't complete this line. So we had a function, the name is main, and before that we also have something else, int, and with a space in between. So this int is nothing, the full form is nothing but integer. This is the type of the return value this function is going to give in return. So since this is an integer function, and that's the reason we are returning 0, which is an integer. So that's about it. That's the whole that's how the program is structured here. If you notice carefully, the only line in this program which does what the user wants to do is this one single line. Everything other than this is just, you know, supporting this line to execute properly in a smooth manner. So let's focus on what that line is. So it starts, so I'll go word by word first, then I'll explain you what the whole statement means. So first one, don't read it as scout, it's see out. So the technical term for this is that it is an output stream object. More on to that deeply later, but all you need to understand now is that this outputs stuffs in the output screen, which we saw now, the black command prompt like screen. And this is always accompanied by this double angle brackets or braces. This is called stream insertion operator. So these two guys go hand in hand always along with each other. So if you have anything to the right side of this, so this kind of outputs whatever is present here to the output screen. And you have this word called end L, which essentially means which marks the end of the line. So for example, if I have another output statement here, let's say see out, and I have let me type this is the second statement, okay, which is obviously the second statement. So if I build and run this, okay, everything is quite fine. I have my first statement here, which is my first C++ program, and right after that I have the second statement. Since I have this, okay, if I now this is much better. If I now remove this end line statement, let's see what happens. Okay, I remove that and I build and run this again. See the difference? My first statement, which is my first C++ program, is printed, and right after that statement ends, my second statement starts. It doesn't matter that I actually wrote this statement in the next line in the actual program. It doesn't matter at all, because every statement ends with a semicolon. So it doesn't matter whether I write this here or I just put it here straight away. It all means the same. So the point to note here is that the end line statement actually leaves a line, marks the end of the line. So anything that comes after this particular statement comes in the next line, just as we saw now. Notice one quirk here. I told this output stream object, the C out and this double angle braces, the stream insertion operator go hand in hand with each other all the time. I'm stuttering a lot. Hand in hand with each other all the time. But here it's not the case. That is because this line over here is actually a combination of two statements. You can give the same effect, produce the same effect by writing like this. This is same as before. If you build and run this, it's going to give you the same output. You have my first C++ program, the first line, and then the second line is executor, which means it marks the end of the line before it, which is my first C++ program. And after that, the second line starts. This is the second statement, which itself is the second statement. So there you go. That is a walkthrough through our simple C++ program. Hope you got at least few stuff. Even if you didn't get few things, it's fine. We have a lot of videos to come up and we'll be learning in detail every bit and bits later. So until then, stay tuned. See you in the next one. Bye bye.